Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Well, it's Watchmaker Wednesday, so I brought my watchmaker.
Good to be back.
Mike Michaels joining us. Expert opinion and commentary on the news of the week. Let's face it, Mike, there's only one word on the lips of everyone this week, and it's a conjunction. Baselworld.
Baselworld.
Mike is going to be sharing his opinions on new watches from Rolex, Patek Philippe, Omega, and Blancpain today. He's also here to answer your questions, so feel free to participate. We only get this resource once in a while, so let's take advantage. On the other hand, Baselworld, Mike, comes once a year.
Yeah, once a year, and I think they shocked everybody by the pretty much media dumps they did in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Omega, Rolex, Patek, everyone came out with the newest, latest, and greatest. And a lot of surprises, and a couple of things were anticipated, but there are some pretty nice surprises in there we're going to go over.
I would say the first big surprise was just how much stuff came out the day before the show opened. Now, we were ready to do a Baselworld show on Friday, but with the deluge of new watches, some of which are only hours old, Mike and I are going to be taking it from the top. And life at the top starts with Rolex. Okay, this is the 50th anniversary of the Sea Dweller. Seeing it. This is the 50th anniversary of the Rolex Sea Dweller, so naturally we need some sort of way of celebrating, and we're taking it back to the roots with a single line red, 43 millimeters. Mike, this fixes some of the issues of the deep sea with respect to bracelet to case ratio.
It looks great. One thing they did though that I'm not a big fan of is they put the Cyclops on it.
Yeah.
And anyone who knows the Sky Dweller never, or the Sea Dweller never had the Cyclops on it. This one has it. But the first thing that jumps out at you is the single line red.
Yeah.
It looks gorgeous.
This is well done. This is the Sea Dweller's equivalent of the 2003 green bezel anniversary sub or the 2005 green GMT hand. GMT.
I think this is even better than the green bezel sub. I think this goes back to the heritage. Instead of a lot of people, the green bezel sub was either a love it or hate it.
Yeah.
Where the color contrast was so bright. Yes, Rolex green, everything else, but the color, the green and black, was so. Either, again, you loved it or hated it. The red letter, I don't think anyone's going to hate it.
Yeah, I think
it's just stunning. It's going to be a big time hit.
I will say, and this is kind of our instant analysis, what we like is the better match between bracelet and case size. Mm-hmm. We like the size. It's a good in-betweener from the 40 to 44 of the deep sea. We like the red script. That's heartfelt, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
What we don't like is the Cyclops eye, and I'm also going to say I don't like that it killed off the 116600 before its time. I think I've got one on the table tonight. Yeah. 2.5-year run for a Rolex sports watch. Yeah. Guys, get them while you can.
Yeah, that's a great watch. I absolutely love that piece right there. The size, everything on it. It's not the deep sea. Doesn't have that massive case on it. It's just a great watch, great size watch, comfortable watch to wear. And it's funny, when we used to work on the subs, or the Sea Dwellers, 20 years ago, we thought they were massive. Who could ever wear these?
Oh my gosh, can you imagine 40 millimeters and like 15 thick? But I think the new model will be well received. I think the outgoing Sea Dweller 40 is going to be revered by collectors. The other thing that I'm going to say, I would have liked to have seen, if only for a single model year run, a dial that reprised the Submariner 4000 script. It would have been cool if it said Sea Dweller Submariner 4000.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Who knows? Maybe somewhere in the future they may come out with something. I think they're going to get really good feedback with this red letter, though.
Yeah, this is going to be a great watch, and at 10,800 Swiss francs, which equates to roughly 11,000 US bucks as of today, I think it's well priced. Yeah. I should also mention these things have awesome clasps, because with the Sea Dweller of any size, you get the flip lock, which gives you an inch, and then glide lock, which gives you almost an inch. Exactly.
Yeah, you have a lot of mobility with it, and again, it's a dive watch. It's made to go over that wetsuit if you need to, without a lot of work, without having to add links or add an extension or anything.
Yeah, I think this is a great way to celebrate the 50th of the Sea Dweller. I think this is going to be the hit of the show for Rolex. I will say, however, that it doesn't end there, because guys, we saw the beginning of this last year, but the Daytona is being re-emphasized, and that's 17 years into this generation's lifespan. So we have the precious metal Cosmograph Daytona now on a rubber strap. Mike, you've seen the yellow gold. What do you think of this?
The yellow. I'm not crazy about the yellow gold version. I'm still a big fan of the rose gold and the rubber straps, just how they look. The yellow and the black, to me, you have to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan or something, to absolutely love it. But being from Cleveland originally, I'm not, so maybe that's why it just, kind of digs in me a little bit. But it's, again, just the panda style dial I'm a big fan of, but not the yellow and black. Just for me personally.
For me, this is an interesting model because, first of all, it's all precious metal. There are 3 variants. There's the one that you saw, the yellow gold on the Oyster Flex, but there's also white gold and there's rose gold. Good options, but I will say this. What everyone's really waiting for is a stainless steel Rolex sports watch on the Oyster Flex.
Yep, I agree.
Right now, you get your choice between precious metal Daytonas and precious metal Yachtmasters. We're still waiting for that other shoe to drop.
When you start talking about steel watches and Rolex, the Skydweller.
Yeah, that's an important thing that we should note. Actually, the Skydweller, I think I've got one on the table tonight. This is one of the follow-ups to the watch's 2012 debut, the white gold on a strap, black dial. But we've got as close to a stainless steel Skydweller as you're probably ever going to see, with the precious metal content quite low. This is the model that is technically what's known as white Rollosaur, so white gold and steel. But the only white gold is the ring command bezel.
Yep.
So about $15,000 US. That's about as low as you're going to get without plumbing the depths of pre-owned, and I can tell you we've never sold one for that low.
Exactly. We don't. I don't think we buy them there.
No.
So if the Skydweller, it's one of my favorite watches, one of my favorite Rolex for the size, everything, the precious metal on the strap, everything about that watch works. The dials functions, every easy to read, the calendar, everything on that thing works. It's nice to see they made it a little more affordable.
Yeah, I think this was necessary, and short of putting it on some sort of rubber strap or a textile strap or decontenting, I think this was the way to go. I also appreciate the fact that with white Rollosaur, we've effectively got the white metal, mostly steel Skydweller that people dreamed about. I don't think we'll ever see full steel.
No, I don't think they will. Not with the bezel. One of the combinations they came out with is the blue dial too.
Yes,
and that's absolutely stunning.
Yeah. There's a new Datejust 41 blue dial that is absolutely spectacular, and I think that's really the Datejust 41 model coming into its own. I think last year it was let's get off the blocks. This year, let's run.
Exactly. Yeah, Rolex, they came out really strong this year.
So now, guys, keep in mind, this is a really old Daytona platform, so either next year or the year after, we're going to see major changes. Just to follow the evolution of this watch, in 2011, we saw the first gold ceramic bezels. Then in 2013, we saw the arrival of the anniversary Daytona Platinum with the chocolate ceramic bezel. Great watch, but playing out the string. You know what they mean? This is the band trying to keep that last solo going. 2016, steel ceramic. This year, they put it on a strap. Maybe they've got one more year steel ceramic on a strap.
And they're going to have to do something. They're going to do a major design change. It has to be in the works.
Yeah, I mean, you look back to what Rolex was still selling when this generation of Daytona debuted. You could still buy a new Oyster Quartz. I mean, this was like 3 directors of Rolex ago. This was back when, a no-date sub still wasn't a chronometer. Like, this was a different world of Rolex when this thing emerged.
What we will talk about, though, is in the last couple of years, they did a major redesign of the movement.
This is true.
The 4130 has a lot of new parts in it. We've talked about that on the show. And so the movements are better than the movements made a few years ago.
This is true. When the watch first came out, it's not often repeated because, again, it was like a lifetime ago. But the 4130 had some issues when it first came out.
Yeah, pretty much all of them do. We've talked about that. We beat that to death. Where every new release of a new movement, they always have their growing pains in them.
This is a fact. And the more complex the movement, like the 4160 and the Yachtmaster 2, which became the 4161 very quietly, it just takes longer to sort of get the bugs out. But they do it. I mean, they do it. And if you have the watch, Rolex will upgrade it when you send it in.
And one of the things while we're on Rolex, I don't know if you wanted to touch on Tudor as well.
Yeah, Tudor, ripping it up with a couple of different variants of their dive watches, most notably. We've got a new Black Bay chronograph, which
with the in-house movement, which is basically an unfinished version of the new Rolex-based movement. It's a sandblasted finish, but I haven't seen the movement yet. Haven't seen anything in it. But they're boasting a column wheel vertical clutch.
I've got to say,
it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what they did on the movement. I wasn't sure if they were going to use a module on it, or what they did, but they're boasting column wheel and vertical clutch. So let's see.
I agree with you. It's a ton of content. It's also a ton of controversy. People are already hopping mad about the date. I mean, the date on a vintage dive style watch. This is a watch that never existed. This is a what if type of historically inspired but not historically literal watch. I like the date. A lot of folks are kind of grousing about it though.
Yeah. To me, it's a sharp watch. Again, I'm a big fan of Tudor anyway. You know, I like that retro look to it. I think it's going to be a really good seller.
And I think that's a great way to create a brand identity. Don't just be Longines issuing like slavish retro watches. Create a watch that never existed, that's got some historical inflection, but stands on its own identity.
Yeah.
So I agree with Mike on that.
We'll get to that when we talk about Omega.
That's a fact. And we've got quite a haul from the second of the Swiss Big Three, because Omega, as you know, is celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Speedmaster, but it's actually a triple anniversary, not too widely recognized.
Right. Yeah, they have like you said, you know, we were hoping the 2998 would come out again. They didn't do it, but they came out with an absolutely beautiful Speedmaster, the Railmaster, and also the 300.
Yeah, we're seeing a triple anniversary with a triple issue. We're seeing the Omega Trilogy. It's your Speedmaster, so basically as close as you can get to a CK2915. I'd asked for this in my pre-Basel wish list. Obviously, with 3,557 pieces made and the 1861 movement, it's got a pedigree, but perhaps not the sky's the limit concept watch allure of a 321, which I'd hoped they would re-release. But you're also getting the Seamaster 300, because that also came out in 1957. And so did the nearly forgotten Railmaster. And that one, I believe, was the CK2914.
And Tim, why don't you mention about what they're doing with the group of watches?
Absolutely.
Which is really interesting.
This is, in my opinion, this year's gold standard for a boxed set. Because not only can you buy all three watches for something like 20,000 Swiss francs, but when you buy them, you get an identical series number for each of the three. So it'll be like 448, 448, 448. You get 3 leather straps, 3 textile NATOs, you get strap tools, you get an oak, a sort of commemorative box made of Swiss oak with the Omega logo blazoned. You get a red bound sort of travel case for the three. You get a watch roll, and it's just a very comprehensive boxed set for, frankly, 3 watches that, if you added their cost individually together, would be priced pretty close to what you'd pay for the whole set with accessories.
Yeah, I love that idea of having, you know, the 3 watches together, same numbers on everything. We've seen sets like that from Panerai, you know, from the other brands as well. But to see, you know, Omega coming out with that 3 watches from the same year, history set coming out and being able to sell them like that, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, this is well done. This is heartfelt. It almost makes up for the fact that I didn't get my caliber 321, but it's...
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit before the show. I would still love to see that too. Omega owns Lamania, you know, and someday I think we'll see that. We'll see a limited edition 321 series. It won't be a Geneva seal, but it's going to be a high finish on it. And it's just going to be an absolutely beautiful watch. I hope they'll do it. Go back to the column wheel.
Yeah, I think this would be a great way for Omega to restart the museum series, kind of make their version of a PAM 21. You remember the crazy Radiomir from 1997? Panerai made the same case, the same dial. They put in a Rolex Codebert 618 pocket watch movement with a display back. So I think this will happen because, Mike, I think both of us can agree, we have not seen the end of Speedmaster limited editions.
No, Speedmaster's not going away. It's not going away at all.
10 years.
They just came out, what was it, 2 months ago with the Speedmaster, Tuesday. The Tuesday watch.
The Speedy Tuesday, the Project Alaska 3 tribute. It's not going to stop, and it's not just a trade show season thing.
Exactly.
It's all year long. And again, Omega, we'll see you again in 10 years for the 70th. Keep this in mind, caliber 321. Guys, if you're watching us live, I do want to highlight the fact that Federico is talking watches in the chat box. He's my sort of... He's my envoy to the world of the live chat box and our live audience. Guys, thanks for joining us from around the world as ever. We have friends from Europe, we have friends from South Africa, from the Far East. Of course, we love our Canadians and Latin American fans who are watching in these local time zones. But guys, sound off in there. Tell Federico where you're from. And by the way, we are going to be taking questions. We're just getting through these novelties because some of them are so new. I realize some of you are going to be hearing about them for the first time from us. So just to sign off that Omega trilogy, No CK2990 Ranchero. That's the other 60th anniversary that no one's talking about.
Yeah, does anyone really want to see that, though?
I don't know. I'm sure they could find like a 2895 with the small seconds. That's one for the fall. Remember, watch debuts are an all-year thing now.
One of the things about the Railmaster,
Yeah.
the pictures I saw, it had a bubble crystal on it, which looked very interesting. You know, it's going to be curious to see just how that looks, how that watch looks when it's actually out.
Yeah, in my opinion, the Railmaster of the three feels like the freshest because we haven't seen this design in a while.
It's totally different. It's just the dial itself is reminiscent to the 30 that came out 2 years ago. Was it the Bond?
Absolutely.
You know, it's very reminiscent to that with the hands and everything, but with the straight second hand. But the bezel's clean.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing there.
Like the Bond, when Mike's talking about like the Spectre edition, Seamaster 300, it was very clean, historically inspired. We applaud the lack of a date. But in the Railmaster, we've got a reference that we haven't seen in a while from Omega. We've seen vintage-inspired Speedies, and we've seen that Bond Seamaster. We've seen the Seamaster 300 quite a bit, too, here at Watch You Want. We've had quite a few. This Railmaster is something that's so old it's new to us. Okay, and getting a little zany, Omega not stopping with the hit parade or hopeful hit parade, but a Seamaster Planet Ocean Big Blue GMT.
I love it.
So do I.
I absolutely love it. It's blue ceramic, the dial ceramic, everything on the I think it's just absolutely beautiful. I don't know how it's going to wear. I don't know how what the size is exactly, how it's going to fit or anything. But the pictures I saw, there it is right there. I think it's just absolutely, it's so sharp. I love the blue and orange. The watch works for me. Blue ceramic.
Now, you Major League Baseball fans or Americans in general realize that being a Yankee fan, I'm loath to endorse anything that reminds me of that other team from the other borough. But I have to say that even having cheered against the Mets in multiple World Series, including the 2000 Subway, this thing just strikes my heart. I love it. I love the color. I love the audacity. I love that it's not a retro watch. Although it does have a little bit of vintage inspiration. Because,
the hands.
Yeah. The hands and surprisingly the color even.
Yeah, the broad arrow hands. Again, when I saw this, the first thing I did was I had to read it and make sure it wasn't a PVD, but knowing Omega and how Omega's doing everything, as soon as I saw it was ceramic, it's beautiful.
It's gorgeous, and it's a very subtle homage. Last year, this builds on two things, one distant past, one relatively recent. Last year, Omega brought us ceramic Seamaster Planet Oceans at Baselworld. They didn't come out publicly till a little bit later in the year, but that's when I first saw them. Then the 1970s brought us big blue and deep blue Omega Seamaster 120 divers. The big blue, of course, being a chronograph, the deep blue being a Seamaster 120 diver, and this watch, nicknamed Big Blue by Omega itself, is a little bit of an oblique tribute to those older watches.
Yeah, I think it is. It's just, there it is right there. Yeah, I think it is, and they understand the history. Again, just the way they're doing it, it's almost like a Rolex Tudor mix.
Yes.
If you look at it, they're going for the Tudor heritage, but they're keeping consistent with Rolex, and their designs.
Exactly like you say. It's like they're taking the philosophies of Tudor and Rolex and dovetailing them, taking a somewhat more historically inspired tack than Rolex, but also putting a little bit more modern style, size, and sensibility into the watch than some of the more vintage-feeling Tudors. It's almost like down the middle, and they've created something entirely their own. Because I have to say, this is a logical extension of a lot of very colorful Omegas we've seen in the last few years.
Yeah, and this one I really, really like. I love the ceramic cases in the Omegas. I've yet to see one fracture or anything. Just the way they're designed, they're very heavy. Ceramic, as we know, it doesn't scratch, but it's also very brittle.
Yeah.
I've seen a few Panerai cases broken. I've even broken a Panerai case, at a lug. But the Omega cases, they seem to be pretty damn solid.
They're solid and they're modern. And what I like here is that Omega has proved that from a design standpoint, it's more comfortable with color than Rolex and even Breitling.
Yeah.
And so far, they're proving you can put on a good freak show.
Yeah. I'm going to be curious to see how this one sells because it's like you said, it's very audacious. It's in your face watch.
That's definite, and being ceramic probably wears lighter than steel, so I'm optimistic, but it's also got a very engaging case back, and Faylene's got a picture of that for us.
It's 8900.
Yeah. It's 8906 now. Maytas.
Yeah. I was wanted to see that too as well. I was glad they put that movement in there. So it's Omega, they're keeping up with it.
This is a very fun, engaging, and progressive fun watch from Omega. And I'm happy to see it in a year when they're launching so many historically inspired watches, just to show that they've still got it as a company.
Yeah, one of the things too on the ceramic watches, the case backs where it looks like it's a screw-on case back. That's like actually a snap-on case back with a twist to lock, and it's an interesting system. And they have special tooling and everything to actually put it on. The case back goes down and it turns a certain number of degrees, and that's it. And it locks into position.
And this is a great comment from Mike, because the assembly of the case is designed to make sure that the text on the case back always aligns correctly every time. Very hard to do with a threaded fitting.
Yeah, you're not going to do it and get water resistance. Where this one, if you put it in, when you turn it, when it locks down, if everything lines up right, the watch is going to be water resistant.
I will say this, it's unfortunately named, historically inspired, they're calling this the Naiad lock.
Okay, yeah, they are. That's right.
The Naiad, a attempt at circumventing what we all know works with screw-down crowns during the 60s, mostly abandoned.
Yeah, I was surprised they went with something like that. Yeah.
So
Thanks for bringing that one up.
I'm sorry, Omega, my bad. There goes my co-op payments. But I will say this too. Still no orange ceramic. 2014, Omega released 8 platinum Seamasters they were Seamaster Planet Oceans with orange ceramic bezels. Since then, they haven't revisited that. Every time you see orange in an Omega bezel, it's been a rubber insert.
Well, they did it with the didn't they do ceramic with the Propov? Didn't they do ceramic in the titanium dial?
You see, I think the thing is with the Ploprof, isn't it under a sapphire cap?
It may be.
Yeah.
It may be. I'm not certain. I don't know if it was an orange sapphire or not.
That guy, that was a crazy watch with platinum thread, that 8-piece $50,000 orange ceramic Planet Ocean. But I feel like Omega is still not ready to serialize that.
Yeah, now I think that's, again, when you talk about being audacious, orange and platinum.
You know what? Hey, Omega, I'm challenging you next to your orange ceramic serial production. But I will say this, they borrowed an interesting color of ceramic from inside the family, keeping it in the family. They borrowed the blue ceramic from Blancpain's Ocean Commitment 2 chronograph. And I'm happy to say Blancpain surprised us. The anniversary you forgot. This is the 10th anniversary of the great 2007 5015, and it's the 60th anniversary of the first Blancpain mil-spec sale to the U.S. Navy in 1957. Fayleen's got a great picture of the original U.S. Navy mil-spec, but Mike, you've seen some of these in person.
Yeah, we've seen these. I remember seeing these, again, 20 years ago. We worked on these. The watches would come in, and it was just again, they make the old watch, they make the new watch. It works together. Like you said, it's a mil-spec watch.
And the nice thing about this one, too, is that they listened to collectors. I would say they listened to collectors on one count and then stuck up a huge Swiss middle finger on another. So on the one count, 40 millimeters in stainless steel, not 45 like the 5015.
Right.
And on the other, the tribute to mil-spec, and Fayleen has the picture of the tribute to mil-spec and of the historic dial. Unfortunately, we're getting a date window as part of the package. Yeah.
Again, you don't need a date on a dive watch.
Yeah, you don't need a date on a dive watch, especially once you've gone through the trouble of creating a unique case shape and size. They get the historic dial right, but the date, come on, guys.
Yeah, you don't need it. Again, it could be personal preference, but
I mean, they've gone so far as to get the case size right, the hands, the indices, the bezel.
The bezels are beautiful, though. The bezels are absolutely beautiful.
Best in the business, the Blancpain cambered sapphire. It's not just a cap like on the Ploprof.
Right. Yeah, it's a thick piece. It's a fully, full.
It's like a bubble.
Yeah, it's a bubble. Exactly. It's raised. It's like the crystal comes over, then you have the crystal itself, or the bezel itself.
Which is also a phenomenally expensive part. If
yes,
broken.
it is. Yes, and they won't sell it either. So you crack one, and it goes back to Blancpain.
No one ever said beauty was cheap or easy.
Yeah.
But this is a great piece. I think if you can squint your eye and not see the black date disc down at 430, it's pretty close to perfect. And it does feature the historic moisture indicator, the intrusion indicator.
What movement are they using in that?
They're using a Frederic Piguet 1151.
Okay.
So it's a 4-day caliber, and I think Fayleen's got a great shot of the case back of this. The 4-day caliber, twin barrel. It does have the silicone hairspring, however. So I like it. I just feel like they stopped just short of perfection. but good piece. This is pretty close to the big splash Blancpain really needed, because as a brand, Mike, I feel like they're adrift.
Yeah, they're not, obviously they're not selling the same numbers, in the Swatch group as everybody else is, but it is still a niche brand. If you like the watch, if you like how they wear it, which I love them,
Yeah, me too.
They're absolutely beautiful pieces. It's not something to overlook. If you're looking for a dive watch, it definitely is a brand to look for.
Yeah, the great thing about this watch, I think, is that Blancpain is such a niche brand that if you want one, I would anticipate good availability. And I really feel like if you're into the history of dive watches generally, you know the role. This watch came out a year before the Rolex Submariner. You know the role it played in creating the modern dive watch template. You might be into the mil-spec 1s, the mil-spec 2s, and the Tournek Rayvilles that followed in 57, 58, later in the 60s. Blancpain has a legitimate U.S. Navy military history that, frankly, Rolex can never co-opt because they don't have that to the same extent.
Exactly.
So there's an authenticity to this watch that I really like. Well done, Blancpain. Mike, okay, Rolex might be the most valuable brand in watchmaking.
Here we go.
But what's the most valuable brand to watch geeks?
Patek Philippe.
That's a fact. Okay, Patek still releasing new stuff. Some of this just hours old. Mike and I are going to try to cover as much ground as we can.
I just read about this. I haven't seen any of them yet, so this is the first time I'm actually going to see them as well. Like I said, I did see some of the Rolex. I saw the Omega. This is the first time going through for me. Reading through it, I was just astonished by what you're going to come up with on the last one, I believe it is.
Yeah, every single one of these references is memorable, by the way, guys.
Yeah, there's a 5372, though, is just going to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we're going to hit that one. We're saving the best for last, as Mike alluded. So now, Pheline has a graphic of the Aquanaut travel time. Mike, 20 years since the Aquanaut.
Yeah, this is what I'm waiting to see. I've not seen this yet. Actually waiting for it to pop up.
This is a today thing. So basically, Aquanaut travel time, in honor of 20 years since the original 1,000-piece stainless steel reference 5060, we have an Aquanaut that's part of the Advanced Research Series. It's technically known as the 5650G, white gold.
Now, this is the one where they have on the, it's supposed to be, they're advertising a non-friction.
Yes.
Non-friction for your GMT.
Exactly.
And for the travel time.
So we actually have a good picture of the new mechanism that Phaline's going to show us. So we have a bigger photo of this frictionless GMT selector. This is a very cerebral watch, even by the standards of the Advanced Research Series. Just a little background on those, Mike. I mean, you know the story. Maybe you could relate a bit.
The way the original ones work, even just on the function of them, I know, because I've actually worked on a few of them. The function, it's a very positive, hour.
Yeah.
When you snap it, you have hour advance, hour return, which it's good and bad because since it sticks out from the watch, you can actually inadvertently change your hours on your GMT. That's the one drawback on it. The Nautilus was a little better when they did it because it's kind of hidden in the bubble, in the screw bubble on the sides. Where on the travel times, because they stand out a little more, I want to say it's a problem, but it's always been, in the way a little bit.
Now this is what I would call a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But the new mechanism is unique in that it doesn't actually use pivoting intermediate controls to actuate the GMT function. It uses elastic properties of spring steel, which has two main benefits. One, it's very slick, so it has that classic pusher feel you associate with Patek, no compromise, doesn't wind up feeling like a cam chronograph. And two, it allows the whole thing to operate, the GMT selector to operate with very low friction and no lubrication.
Right.
Now, the other interesting innovation with this one, because it is part of the Advanced Research family, is that it appears Patek has found a way to create a unique terminal curve with a silicon hairspring.
That's going to be interesting to see because Patek Philippe, I think more than anybody else, has played with hairsprings.
Yes.
They've changed designs. They've really gone on a limb. They design new ways to manufacture hairsprings. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
That's a fact.
So it'll be interesting to see exactly what the long-term effects are on this. One thing, and I'm sure Patek Philippe is going to stick with this, if the watch was originally made with a steel hairspring or a silicon hairspring or anything like
Yes.
that watch is always going to have that.
Yes.
They don't switch them.
That's
and
a
you
fact.
could have two watches, they're identical pieces, and one has a silicon and one doesn't. They will not upgrade them. They will not change one out for the other.
And there are many follow-on parts. This watch is actually unique in that, yes, it has the low-friction GMT selector, which is why that portion of the mechanism has been skeletonized on the dial, so you can see it as well as enjoy the tactile pleasure. counter, but it has a hairspring with a inner curve that joins the collet in such a manner that it beats concentrically. Now, you know that a Breguet overcoil is designed to allow you to move your wrist around, put the watch on the counter, on the dresser at any angle at night, and still not suffer the effects of gravitational pull. This is an attempt to do the same thing with a silicone hairspring, which is tough because, Mike, you know, silicone generally works in one plane.
Right. You can't, it's, again, when you talk about the Breguet overcoil, you have two planes. You have the hairspring down here, but the connection is actually up on top, where it's actually bent up and over.
Yes.
And then it runs on a separate plane. So the way they're doing that with silicone, I have no idea. You know, I don't know how it's going to play out.
And it's going to be hard to see because it's attached to the collet, which is tucked in underneath the balance wheel. That's why I say this one's kind of cerebral, unlike some of the earlier advanced research watches where you'd, you know, from 2005, you get a little magnifier on the case back to see whatever it was they were integrating in that model. And that was all about putting silicone in the watch. This is about a few different things, and one of them you just can't see.
What, out of curiosity, what is the base movement they're doing this on?
It's a 324.
It is? Okay.
It is. The 324 is Patek's central rotor work-a-day. I mean, if you can call a Patek movement work-a-day. It's their work-a-day kind of entry-level automatic movement as opposed to like the 240.
Right.
So guys, the interesting thing about this watch is that it is a limited series and there are 500 available. I would assume most of those are going to be spoken for before the end of the fair.
Yeah, I would say so too. You know, just because it's Patek and, you know, they hold their value.
Now, the instant analysis on this one is that it's cerebral. It's the first major addition to advanced research since 2011. It's like the first Aquanaut in '97. It's a limited series, 500 versus the 1,000 of the first Aquanauts. But the one for the rest of us, if you can call it that, is actually this is the Aquanaut 5168, guys. It's bigger. It's 42.2 millimeters. Traditionally, the jumbo Aquanaut has been 40.8. Yeah. It's also white gold, but it's an unlimited series, and at only $35,000, it's a steal. Get your place in line today.
Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful piece. It's going to wear well, everything. It's just again, anything Patek, they're so comfortable.
Yeah.
They're designed well.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, I don't mean to cut you off there, but I'm going to opine that they did a better job on the 5168 than they did on the 5711P. Like the 40th anniversary Nautilus was less appealing than this.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely beautiful. You know, the size is going to be a big winner too.
Yeah, I think the lesson there is that I think of the last few years, you can afford to go a bit bigger than 40 millimeters with a sports watch. You need to get a little bit smaller with a dress watch.
Yeah, and the thing is too with the Patek that they wear so well. They're just so comfortable to wear. It's not going to feel like a 42 either.
It's easy to forget because this one comes with a beautiful kind of hobnail gridded blue natural rubber strap. How borderline scandalous it was in 1997 when Patek came on a rubber strap.
To have anything rubber, exactly. You know, and now almost all the brands are doing it, and to me, it's one of the most comfortable straps there is. You know, anything rubber, it's just they wear so well. You know, especially down here in South Florida, and we swell up and everything. When 2 months from now, rubber's still so comfortable on a wrist.
It really is still the best material for a strap. And you guys who've got like textile tattoos from over-tightened, jagged-edged, cheap NATOs, you got to get on board with the rubber or at least a silicone strap.
Yeah, try wearing one, you'll love it.
Precisely. Now, speaking of things we love, this is a watch so new that when I started to report it and write up today's episode, I could only get images from Patek Philippe's website. But Mike, tell us a little bit about the 5372P.
It is a mono pusher. It's a mono pusher perpetual calendar Rataponte.
It is.
And it's built on the CH27 platform, which is really interesting. You know, they went back to that.
This is a monster that proves, like I was saying, you can go a little bit bigger than 40 with a sports watch, and the consummate dress watch maybe a little bit less. At 38.3 millimeters, this is a watch that is an application piece. This is a watch that you will have to apply to Patek Philippe to receive. You'll probably have to be approved by someone like Terry Stern or his best buddy. Deservedly so. I think this is the kind of watch that will be kept out of the hands of speculators, I hope, for at least a year or two, because
this watch is going to bring some big money. Once it's released and once it's out in the market, this one's just going to keep climbing.
I love this watch. I feel like this is the perfect way to innovate in Patek's glorious history of manual wind perpetual calendar chronographs. Do something dramatically different. You know, don't just do, okay, we're going to do the 5970. It takes over, from the 3970, then we're going to do a 5270 after those. This is a very different look. It's a very different concept.
Yeah.
It's a very different function.
Like I said, absolutely beautiful. I love single button chronographs. Just absolutely love the function. Everything about them, the design, the function, like I said, the watch itself. And this one being built on a CH27, which we talked about earlier, which was originally the Lemania. Just beautiful movements. Just beautiful movements. It's still one of my favorites to work on. I doubt we'll ever get inside one of these.
No.
But it's still CH27 is one of my favorite chronograph movements to work on.
Hearing me, Omega? But
Exactly.
The bottom line is that there's also 2 dial options for those of you who will be among the exalted elite. There is rose gold and there is blue sunburst. Faline has a picture of both, actually, and I'm going to say right off the bat that the rose gold is a nice idea, but with the oxidized black hands and numerals, it doesn't work as well as the blue sunburst.
Now, give me the blue, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that is our day 1 breathless highlight reel of Baselworld 2017. And guys, we're going to start taking your live questions in the chat box because Mike is here to answer all of your thoughts about this year's novelties, new watches, old watches, inside of watches. Federico, of course, is chatting watches in the chat box. Subscribe on our Instagram because that is where Federico talks watches 24 hours a day. Mike, you have an Instagram too, don't you?
Yeah, Michael R. Michaels. One word.
You want to get deep inside the watch, follow him on Instagram too, and subscribe if you like this. I'm overloading you. I'm giving you too many commands. They always say, one call to action, Tim, just one. But whatever. I love a lot of folks. Okay.
What do we have?
Okay, so this is a question regarding a JLC Reverso Classic medium small seconds on a 7.25-inch wrist. So we're talking something that's going to be relatively petite. I feel like on a wrist that's a full inch larger in circumference than mine, you want to use a you want to use a Grand Reverso case to get a good sense of proportion. So you want a Reverso that's going to be 46 to 48 millimeters lug to lug, and I feel like anything smaller than that is going to look very vintage, which might be a look you like, but it may not necessarily be the most contemporary aesthetic if that's what you're going for. Okay, what is Mike's opinion on the new chronograph Black Bay and Tudor's in-house chrono movement?
I haven't seen the in-house chrono movement yet. We talked about it a little bit. It is a column wheel vertical clutch. So I'm going to be very interested as to what they do, exactly how they marry them together. I don't know if it's a full buildup of a movement or if it's a module. I don't even know yet. Like I said, I just saw the pictures today. I read about the watch today. It does have the in-house movement. And the in-house based movement, which by all rights is a fantastic movement. Again, what they did for the chronograph, I'm not even certain yet. Yeah, I haven't seen any of the breakdowns. I haven't really looked at anything yet.
It's so new that it's hard to say, but there's talk that it's a collaboration with Breitling, so it may be based on the architecture of the B01 to some extent.
Yeah.
Oh, well. But look, Mike will be back next Wednesday. We're going to do our Hardcore Watchmakers Wednesday the right way with worst-case scenarios, drown watches, dropped watches, Franken watches, and bad watchmaking.
We're going to do bad watchmaking.
This is going to... Viewer discretion is advised. This is going to be good stuff, guys.
That's going to be fun.
And we'll have more details on the Baselworld novelties, a little bit of post-game analysis, and more information on the 5813 caliber that's in the new Tudor Black Bay Chrono. So hold that thought. We're going to revisit it. Other questions coming in. This is from Daniel Mueller, longtime friend of the show. To Mike and Tim, what do you guys think about the 38mm Blancpain 57 bathyscaphe in blue? It's a watch that just came out. It's the bathyscaphe in 38.
Bathyscaphe, I think we actually have one upstairs right now. Mm-hmm. It's not the blue one though.
No.
And it's very clean. The watch is very clean. It's relatively thin. It wears well. I put it on today. It's a very, like I said, it's for a Blancpain, it's a flat watch. Where Blancpain normally isn't. They usually sit taller. This one is very thin.
What Mike is saying is that even though the case shape is, the basic, let's be clear, the basic bathyscaphe is a 43, and the standard 50 fathoms is a 45. The 43 wears much more compact, not 2 millimeters more compact than the standard watch. The 38 wears far, far, far more compact.
Yes, exactly.
It's a historically inspired case size that goes back to the early days of the civilian market bathyscaphe, but it's also something that was pioneered very quietly with a special edition for the anniversary of Revolution magazine. So if you want to see another take on the 38mm bathyscaphe, type in Revolution magazine bathyscaphe 38, and you'll see another take with different coloration, a limited series, and what could arguably be called the prototype of this year's bathyscaphe 38. Okay, so question coming in. This is from Busta G. He's asking, how does a Tudor Pelagos compare to an Omega XL Seamaster? So I believe he's saying like a Seamaster 300 and a Rolex sub, a Pelagos.
Again, it goes to the Pelagos is a beautiful watch.
Yeah.
They're absolutely beautiful. Movement aside, it's style. It's what you like. It's what you're going to wear. How you like it. Do you like the vintage look? Do you like the vintage look of the Tudor line with the hand? Because the watch is very retro.
Yeah.
I happen to love it. I love the Black Bay. I love the Black Bay bronze more than anything. I can't wait to have one of those. The regular Black Bays though they're absolutely beautiful. They're well constructed. It's a really well done watch. Whether you have the older ones with the ETA base movement or the in-house.
Yeah, the Pelagos is a little bit, it's a little bit out of, I would say, Tudor's wheelhouse. It has not sold as well as the Black Bay because it doesn't take as much historic inspiration. Like Mike says, it's got a little bit of snowflake, like if you remember the old Tudor Submariner Snowflake, it's got that to it, but it's a 42mm watch, it's titanium. I'll say the big differentiator for the current Pelagos is just how much you get with the watch.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know about the kits and everything. It does come with, what, 2 straps?
Yeah, I mean, it comes with strap, it comes with bracelet.
That's right.
The extension,
and a NATO too, right?
Yeah. The extension is very deluxe. You get a diving extension, and a good one. It's not some flimsy flip out. It's a really good piece. You get an in-house caliber, 3-day power reserve. You're getting a ceramic bezel insert. You're getting a COSC certificate. You're getting a lot of stuff, frankly, that's not available at any price in that combination from Rolex.
That's the thing, too. Tudor is still priced great. They really hit the market. They hit the price line great. And that's one of the reasons I love them. I'm just a big fan, not just because of the look of it. The price points are great, I think, for Tudor.
Mike, what do you think? This is a question coming from our viewer, Simon, and he's asking, what do you think... hang on, I lost... The chat box jumped away, but the question was, what do you think of faux patina? This is a question from Troy on Time with the Steve McQueen icon. We've got the Omega 60th anniversary releases. They're all doing the faux patina thing. Is it played out?
I don't think so. I think I happen to like it. Again, going back to the retro look. I like that look. I'm not going to say it's played out yet. Okay. I think they're going to push it. They're going to keep going with it. Again, if people don't like it, they're going to stop buying it.
I think the bigger picture is the watch holistically. If the model is a huge success and the design is right and it's heartfelt and as a collector it resonates with you, the dial is it's one component, but the color of the indices on the dial shouldn't spoil the whole thing if you like the watch. Yeah. I'll also say this. I found Simon's question. Simon, sorry I lost you there. But he's asking, is it possible to get a good deal on a standard watch, existing production, if Basel's coming out with new models now? It's just like the car industry. You know what? Last year's model is last year's model. Yep. If it's a hot model and it's still selling, expect no discounts.
Right.
If it's a popular model with a wait list, expect that the best you can do is to buy it above list on the aftermarket or wait a long time at the dealer. If it's something that was never popular, it's not suddenly going to catch fire. In general, dealers will offer better buys on existing stock. But if it's a special order, don't expect too many considerations. Obviously, Basel's going to be the...
What'll be interesting too is to see what comes out of Basel. A lot of the novelty watches, to see. I saw a couple of the Hublots today, really crazy stuff, and to see. But they're actually selling at a better price point. Some crazy tourbillons, and selling in that $150,000 range instead of the $450,000 range. But to see how much of that stuff they actually come up with and how much they actually produce, when they get enough orders for the watches to produce them.
Hublot and Panerai have done a great resurrection from overproduction and somewhat depressed brand equity. They've kind of recovered. So we'll see as Hublot rolls out the Baselworld novelties whether it can continue that charge. Now, a question coming in. Michael, any thoughts on laser welding? Could you just explain what laser welding is?
Laser welding it's welding without heat, essentially welding without heat. So you're not doing any deforming anything. We use it a lot on cases, on replenishing gold on cases for dents and everything. We'll actually build the gold back up, then take the metal down because you can't just keep removing metal. I've used it a few times repairing springs and movements.
Yeah.
I've actually had springs laser welded back together, and I've had great success out of that. I've had teeth laser welded to wheels.
Okay.
And then went ahead and reformed the wheels. So it's to me it's still in its infancy as far as watchmaking goes. Casework, it's all over the place. Everybody does it. There's times you can't get around it when you have a big dent in a gold case.
Exactly. What Mike's saying is basically if you've got a divot style dent and there's depth, there's no way you're going to level. You're going to take half the lug off trying to fill that. If you just try to smooth the metal, you have to laser weld it. Put some metal in there, bond it by melting it. Finish it down, finish the little lump down, and now you've restored metal, something that's rarely done in case refinishing.
And you did it without heat.
Yeah.
And you did it without applying heat to the movement or applying heat to the case or anything like that. So you're not going to distort anything. And that's where it's important.
And it's really the movement component laser welding that's an entirely new frontier. That's something we never talk about.
Yeah, so we started doing that probably 10 years ago when laser welding was actually in its infancy. I had different ideas. Hey, let's try putting this back together. And it worked. We had repeater gongs, and we broken repeater gongs off pocket watches. We actually laser weld those back together, and they sounded beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be perfectly honest, this is a topic that we're going to explore in depth in another edition of Watchmaker Wednesday. But again, Mike will be back next Wednesday. Normally we alternate with a guest, but we're having him 2 weeks in a row because, frankly, we didn't get too deep inside the watch day. We got deep inside the watch show. Final question I'm going to answer is one coming from, oh dear. The identity escapes me because it jumped away, but, oh no, here it is. Estuardo Mira. Do we think the watch industry is moving in the right direction? I'll close with this one just because I feel this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I think so. I think a couple of brands are realizing they have to take responsibility for their volumes and cut down. I think a couple of companies are realizing they have to take marketing into their own hands and stop relying on regional agents, and I think they're taking control of their own message. I also see more watches in steel, which is just common sense, and you see that in the new mostly steel Rolex Skydweller.
It makes more watches available to people. That actually they love the watch, but they want to be able to wear it. But they're not gonna. They don't have the the 50,000 to put down on a watch.
Exactly. So that new Skydweller, 14,400 Swiss francs, about $4,500 US. That's the right direction. More realistic pricing. Build less watches and take control of your marketing message. That would be the right direction for the Swiss watch industry. It's not universal, but some are hitting on point.
One thing I'll say about that too is the quality. The quality's never been better. What they're producing, the quality of watches, the quality of movements, it's top notch, and it's getting better and better. The finishes, everything else, it's still getting better.
The best watches ever made are being made right now, vintage guys. So, frankly, on that note, I'm Tim, he's Mike, he's Federico, she's Faylene. This is Watch You Want. Enjoy Baselworld, and thanks for logging on.
See you next week.